Hello, chess friends. Mike Koplitz with the Royal Rooks Chess Club of York. Great to see you here with me today as we continue. This is lesson 2 out of Best Lessons of a Chess Coach, the extended edition. And as we go through it, you'll see I'll be adding things to the lesson as we go. I got a light blinding me in the eyes. That wasn't going to help. This lesson 2 talks about knights, and we're going to take a look at how the knights have some really cool powers, as you probably know. So let's get started with this game. This is a game between Pugh and Viramonte, U.S. Amateur Team Championship, 1992, so I guess that was a while ago. Yes, it is a while ago. Let me get some moves on the board for you. D4, F6. King's Indian defense happens to be my favorite against D4. And then black fianchettos, and we call that the King's Indian. A very nice way to go. White's going to develop a very large center, and then black's going to try to chip away at it. Little difference here. Again, let me get some more moves on the board. There's castling. Bishop G2. I'm using a DGT board if you're wondering why I'm stretching here and there, opposed to just making moves on the electronic board on the screen. I'm doing it on the DGT electronic board. Always recommend the DGT. I really do like my DGT. So much that I owned 4 of them at one time, then sold a few of them off. I have 2 right now. Okay, this is called the classical King's Indian defense. Very nice setup. Again, personally, I like the King's Indian, so I'm pretty happy with this setup. Your knights, by the way, on F3 and F6 are key defenders for the king, because H7 can become a target. So, of course, part of your wanting to attack, if you're white going to go after black's king, getting F6, that knight to move, is always a helpful thing. In the game, white pushed H3. In the book, it says it's a wasted move, but yeah, there might be better ways to go. There's no question about that. But if you don't like that bishop sitting there, you have to think about what you could do with it. So bishop takes F3 in the game. And let me see how he takes it back, which should be bishop takes F3. Now the knight moves to D7. Part of it is because in the King's Indian, for black, the attack is going to come on the king's side. So you're going to be looking at moving E5 as such, and F5, and try to come down that F file and open it up. Now that the knight is gone, that's a white defender. As I mentioned it the other way a few minutes ago for black, this is opening up attack lines. So this could be interesting. White plays E3, as you can see the computer recommends here, and D5. So we complete our King's Indian structure. Looks very good at the moment. Now, white brings his knight to E2, which is a very interesting move also. So we're going to watch and see. As I mentioned earlier, in the King's Indian, F5, you're attacking on the king's side. That's what the King's Indian defense does. That bishop sitting on G7, the one way back here, is part of the protection. for the king, so it's easy to do. White decided to move c5. You got to start counterattacking somewhere. On the queen's side is white is fine. You got to do something. It allows then e4. Bishop is going to go back. And then black took on c5. Couple things white can do at this point, some countering moves here and there, but notice his bishop on g2 is blocked. It's not going anywhere, not anywhere fast. You can move the rook, you'll have to move the knight, then you can maneuver the bishop out like that. That would be good. It's going to take time to get there. White decided queen to b3 check. King back, and white decides to go ahead and grab a pawn. It is intriguing to note that if you look at black's queen side pawns, they look really bad at this point. Of course, he's a pawn up. That's always a good thing. But at what cost is it? You always have to wonder what the cost is. And we'll see what happens here in a few moments. All right, let's continue. Knight to b4. You could see this beautiful, beautiful, remember, outpost from the previous lesson. Look at that e3 outpost for that knight. Is that not gorgeous or what? So black probably has good compensation at the moment for the pawns. And he's not worrying about endgames. I don't believe he would be at this point. He's looking for some attacking going on. Now the queen comes back to b5. So the queen now has made a couple of moves. Well, rooks need to go on open ranks. Excuse me, open files. And you're going to get a tempo on the queen because she's got to move again. So it's kind of a free tempo means free move for those who are not familiar with it. So now the queen's going to come back to c4. And as I mentioned earlier in the game, that knight's just going to pop right into that outpost. That is a gorgeous outpost. Right in the heart of black's camp. You can't beat that. Now white decided to move his queen to d2. He wants to protect b2 because it was being attacked by the knight and the bishop. I would not give up my knight for that pawn. It's not worth it because, let's see, you like that outpost, but you do have a knight back here. So you could do pawn takes pawn, and this knight can jump to c5 and go right into the outpost on e3. So that's not such a bad thing. But white's not going to give up the pawn. Notice now white is defending. That means the initiative has moved over to black. I think black's position is pretty at this moment. He decides to move his queen to e7. And white is now going to move a3. It's kind of, if you look at it, you might be wondering why. What's that going to do for him? Well, it does block off a4 for the knight to make a jump if it has to. This knight doesn't have a lot of places to go if it needed to, but at the same time, that white bishop is this one out here, the white squared bishop, the light squared bishop is not exactly in the game, so it's not exactly something to be worried about. Black decides to move to c8. Notice that the battle has shifted. It looked really like the battle was going to be on the king's side. Now all of a sudden it's on the queen's side. Black couldn't open up any more lines. There's no way to open lines up. This pawn chain is so gorgeous and this outpost is so beautiful. So you might as well just switch your attack. You always have to be ready in chess to move the attack from one side to the other. because the position's going to change constantly as the moves change. So you have to be open to these types of things. Rook to b1. Logical, protect the pawn, frees up the bishop. C takes d4. Knight takes d4. And now the position looks a little different. Does look a little different. Things are opening up a little bit. So black moves c5. Makes sense there because now the knight goes back. So the knight gets out there into the center of the board and black turns around and says, yeah, that's we're not going to let you do that for very long, and decides to go back. c4 is now played. Knight goes back to d4. Notice that the knight on d3 is not going anywhere. He now has two pawns anchoring that beautiful outpost. The white knight goes back into the center, but it's not doing a whole lot of any good. And then we have this move, d7 to c5. There's another outpost sitting here. Look at that, where the blue line is, or the blue arrow, excuse me. Look where that is. Also, if that white bishop ever tries to take that knight, the knight on e3, the knight on c5 just jumps right in. That's pretty cool. White's pieces are being crushed. I mean, look at all the space that black has. All this space now. Oh, pretty much the whole queen side is in his favor. Bishop to d2. Hey, finally developed. On the 24th move. And of course, knight's going to jump right into b3. Now the bishop goes to d3. Why not take knight takes knight? Let's go back. Why not knight takes knight? Well, let me show you what happens. Let's see what the computer tells us. Oh yeah, that's bad. Notice the numbers going up because the B pawn's going to take. It's going to be very, very ugly. This file gets opened. The pawn is lodged on B3. I mean, white might as well resign. 2.6, negative 2.6. Yeah, that's a pretty big advantage at this point. So he moved the bishop to d3. He's trying to challenge this bishop way down here. That's a key bishop. As you can see, that diagonal is just gorgeous. So black's got one heck of an advantage. He's trying to block the c file up a bit. He's trying to slow down those rooks. But black decides, and this is interesting. So we look at it. Whoops. Bishop takes d4. Sure I got that right, because that doesn't look right. Nope, I am wrong. I put it on the board and I went, that just does not look right. He decides to do knight takes d4. That makes more sense. Let's see why. E takes d4. White's now got a pass pawn. Not anything to worry about. Not yet. We're not worried. D takes. Now something's not right here. Whoops. Let's put that back. I got the wrong move on the board. That made sense. Queen to d6. Queen to d2. Bishop take. There we go. That's much better. Then queen. Make sure we get all these guys right. Queen to e3. So black has gotten back his pawn. He does have a weak pawn way out here. White is still jammed in. Black's objective is to get pieces off the board because he's in bad shape here. He's all jammed in. He has really nothing to do. E3 caught my eye, and I went E3, and I went, oh yeah, of course, because the bishop on D4 is pinned because of the white bishop. I'll show you that real quick. And white is threatening to take the bishop at D4. 2 attackers, right? 2 attackers, 1, 2, but only 1 defender. So black does rook to D8. Notice in the computer, black is almost up a full piece. That's all positional. He should be crushing pretty soon here. G4. Again, white's got to do something. It's desperation time. He's got to activate pieces somehow. You just got to get rolling here. Rook comes down to B3. And you can see why. There's going to be some exchanging occurring here. There's another potential pawn loss. We're going to be moving toward an endgame here soon. So you got to start thinking about all those types of things, especially extra pawns. G takes F5. That is a blunder. And you can just see what the computer's done. G takes, that was a bad move. We let it roll and analyze a little bit. -10, we're talking about a queen and a pawn now, queen and 2 pawns. Rook takes C3. Excellent move. Wow, it's going even higher. If white takes back with the pawn, notice he loses his queen. The queen is under attack. Queen takes C4. What else is he going to do at this point? He's got to do something. And then rook to C2. Now, the rest of the game is not in the book, but you can see that white is now down a piece. There's not a whole lot more he can do here to survive. If you're playing in a tournament, I always recommend this to my chess students. I would make in this case, I would make black prove that that extra piece is going to help him with the win. I mean, I know it will, but it's always good to make him do it. And you could see the computer's going to analyze things for a while and make it pretty simple. So we'll play the computer moves. F takes G6. Knight take F2. It lets you see all these. G7 check. King to G8. Why this is instructional, by the way. Most of you might be saying, why don't you just take the pawn? Let's go back. If you take the pawn, black is still going to win. It's not that big a deal. However, the pawn isn't going anywhere. So why take it? Let me come back here a second because something popped up on the screen that was interesting. Let's just take it. I thought I saw a mate pop up. The computer will go to -299 or +299 indicated checkmate. So there's lots of lines going on here. I think you leave the pawn on the board because the king looks real exposed to me right now. And white still has some firepower. Nope, I guess not. It might be in the further analysis. I'm not giving the computer enough time to do full analysis. This is an 8-core processor, but still. Okay, so king went to F8. Computer has it doing that. And across. I mean, there's not much more white can do here. Now it says king can take g7. I don't know, there's a lot of things you can do here at this point. But I think you could see that white's going down here pretty quickly. Bishop on g2 is pinned. Why is it pinned? Because if it moves, queen can come down with the checkmate. Computer says go ahead and take the pawn at this point. Yeah, there's enough pieces off the board, it makes a difference. And you can see the rest. I hope this was an interesting game to watch. You got to see the dance of the knights. And when knights link up and dance like that and you've got outposts, wow, what a magnificent situation to have. Well, again, Mike Koplitz here, Royal Rooks of York. We're going to be looking to reopen the club. We have to wait for this COVID thing to stop, but maybe January 2020. I'm looking at maybe an online club. Lots of possibilities. Well, you take care and happy chess.